I was like,
260. It's just a monumentous number, man. Holy shit. It's a lot. I mean, if we were to start to count between 1 to 260, you know how long we would take just to count numbers?
so how's it going, my comics? And I'm here today with Eddie Lema, the creator of End of Zed. How you doing, Eddie?
Excellent. It's good to be here, man. Thanks. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to be here. And certainly, I hear your show all the time. And one of the things I love about your show is that your graphics, man. How you put really some good thought into how the thumbnails and graphics look. So you kind of stand apart from other people. Now, I don't know if you know that, but I
Well,
dig
well
that.
I, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, sure thing, man.
So, how long you been making comics for?
Well, this is my very first attempt at making a comic, and it's been a long time in the making. Originally from a movie screenplay, so I started it about 2 years ago, and then it took me about a year to write it, and then another year to actually create the team to create the comic. I'm an artist, but I'm not a sequential artist, so I needed to get the work of a good team that would work with me to bring it to life. So, yes, my first time as well as first time on Kickstarter, which just ended the day before Thanksgiving, and it was a success. So we did it. We did it.
Congrats. Yeah. I
Sure,
know
man.
I hear your first Kickstarters are extremely stressful. We was talking about it before we started recording.
Sure thing. I mean, anytime you go into any new world, right, that you don't know anything about, it's certainly stressful. And particularly when you write a story, right? And the story, in a lot of cases, especially with my story, it's very personal to me. A lot of what the character goes through is what I go through. So, in a sense, I could see where someone takes it so personal if the Kickstarter doesn't do well, because they may think it's a reflection on them, But that's not the case. It's just you, obviously, you want it to work. And in my case, my goal isn't necessarily the funds, but it was more so to get more viewers on it, more eyes on it, because I really do believe in the story. I think people will dig it. So it was a success, and so that's all. I'm certainly grateful for that.
Do you want to tell them the elevator pitch?
Yes, yes. So End to Z. What is End to Z? Who is End to Z? So End to Z is a story about a robot who crash lands in the middle of the South Bronx, and this is 1982. Which was really a crazy time in the city's history. And the reason I say crazy is because in the beginning of '82, that was the start of the crack epidemic, which is super negative, and it started there and kind of spread nationwide from that point. A couple of years that the crack epidemic started was around the nation, but it literally started in the city, and it started, in '82. So he lands in here badly damaged and no memory, but he also lands during a great time in the city's history because that was the beginning of the hip hop generation. So hip hop ushered in new music that no one ever heard of before. It ushered in new artwork like through graffiti, which I'm a graffiti artist, and I certainly appreciate that. And then the third thing was fashion, graffiti, hip hop fashion. So he lands in the middle of this kind of malaise of craziness, right? Good, bad. And yeah, he will eventually, with this background, he's going to learn not only about his origins, but more importantly, what his purpose is here on Earth in the beginnings of the South Bronx. So very exciting story. And that's the pitch. And you will see that, yeah, as he's going along, again, he will find out his purpose, he'll find out his origins, and then hopefully he makes some decisions along the way that will help us as Earthlings, because who knows, we might not be here if he doesn't make the good choices. So I'll give you a little hint of the story.
So, if we become, what is it, interplanet species, like if we can go to other planets and inhabit other planets, are you going?
Yeah, of course. Right. Who wouldn't want to take that opportunity, right? Remember when they were like given like moon, they were given, I think it was Elon, right? It was the first one that offered people an X amount of money and they could fly into space. If you certainly had the money, man, I couldn't see how no one would not want to take advantage of that, right? So yes, to answer your question, absolutely. Absolutely. I love this planet, but it'd be nice to see other planets.
Yeah, I agree. We talk about it all the time at work.
hmm
Uh,
About
and
just
so,
the, mhm. About
no,
just
yeah,
wanting
about
to
just
see other
going to other
planets.
planets and just
Yeah.
seeing what's out there to see if we would ever see it in our lifetime.
Yeah, absolutely. And
You know?
we think about outer space all the time, right? But what about inner space, right? You ever see movies on inner space and deep sea, inner deep sea and things like that? It's like its own galaxy down there too. So
Yeah.
you can go one way up or down. You take your choice.
Yeah, it seems like the further you go down in the ocean, those fish, they get scary quick.
That's it. Yeah, man. And you ever seen the pictures of those like creatures that are down there that have never been photographed, for example? Boy, do they look like monsters, man, you know? And especially like because their environment, there's no light, let's say, like they may not have eyes or just a certain way that their skin is made or something,
Mhm.
all based on their environment. So I find that fascinating, man. Fascinating.
I think the one that scares me the most is that anglerfish that has a little light in the big
Yeah.
mouth.
Yes. Absolutely. Now, is there, and gosh, this is going to show you how I know nothing about oceanography or whatever you want to call it. Are there actual pictures of that or are there just depictions of what it looks like? I don't know. Would you know, did they ever take one and bring it up to the surface? And,
You know,
or, is,
I'm gonna look
or it
that
just
up
looks like
after
it?
the
Yeah.
interview.
Yeah, because I don't know if that's like an artist depiction of what they look like or they literally took them and then I don't know. It's a good question. I'll do the same.
That is a good question.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
So your Kickstarter funded the day before Thanksgiving. Is the book ready? Do you have to just
Ready
print
to
it and
rock,
ship it?
man. Yeah, actually, I got a first sample of it here. I actually got it last week, and so I wanted to make sure to make it printed right, and colors were such a big
Mm.
part of the story, man. So I wanted to make sure that the colors popped. This episode takes place all in one night. So you remember that movie, The Warriors?
Yeah,
So that's what I call this. This is a mixture of Wild Robot meets The Warriors. Okay, so everything takes place in one night. So I wanted to make sure that the colors pop and that the artists and the team that worked on it, kind of were very sensitive to that. So it's great to have this in my hand. I always hear from other artists and other comic artists about, the first time you get it in your hands, how you feel like, and I certainly felt a sense of accomplishment. But it's going to be better when I get into other people's hands. So there'll be no worries that everyone's going to get it on time, and then I can move on to the second phase, which is marketing it to other areas, outlets that they can actually buy it, and then of course working on everything's already written, but working on the second issue with the artist to get that done, which is the goal is to get it done by next year.
that's a beautiful cardstock cover you got there.
Yeah, man.
You know,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and I even thought about that too. Do people like glossy covers, for example? So I kind of benchmarked that to ask people if they like that. The inside has somewhat of a matte finish, but even though it's a little bit on the shiny side.
Yeah.
But again, very, very important to me that those that kind of buy the book can you respect the story, and you certainly respect it when you get a good piece of materials in their hands for them to go through. So.
You, you got to go down the printing rabbit hole and see all the things that they offer. Like you could do like
Mhm.
spot foil, spot UV,
Yes.
um, soft touch, laminate. Like there's a lot of cool things you can
Yeah.
do now with your comic books to stand out.
Yeah. But I wonder is it hard though to kind of make a decision on that? Because when you have a lot of choices, right? You can't make everyone happy, right? Like the old adage says. So what makes you pick what stock? What makes you pick if you do a foil one, if you do, maybe you can go by maybe whatever the majority wants, you can print it in that way. But maybe there's something about that you personally want within your comic. So there's a lot of factors in terms of what you pick. These choices are good, but sometimes they can handcuff people.
I think people normally just pick like like three or four and just throw them up on a
Ah,
Kickstarter and see
which one
what does the
hits?
best. Yeah,
See? See, I needed you, man. See, I needed you for my Kickstarter to help me. See, I didn't.
yeah.
That's a good idea. Yeah, man. Yeah. Well, when
Uh,
I first started my Kickstarter, I was told to keep it simple, and thank goodness, because there is so much involved in learning it. Certainly, the next go around, I will make it more complex, and something like that is excellent. Yeah.
that's what I was just going to ask. Did you have help running your first or setting your first Kickstarter up?
Yeah, I got to tell you, dude, man, it was like so before this, I started a graffiti site on Instagram, an IG of graffiti. You can see actually one of my pieces I did there. And what I did was I took my sketches and I wanted to digitize them and make them into like a vector computer format. So I've never been on social media before. This is years ago, and I never been on IG. So I said, let me. And this is what I did every year. Even before then, I would start a project, right? And I would start the project in the beginning of January, and at the end of December, I would stick with just this project all year, and it would have to have some kind of goal at the end. And in that particular case, is I'm going to open up this graffiti site, and if I get 1,000 organic followers, I've made it, a mission accomplished. So as I was going along creating these things, putting them on the Instagram account, it really built such a great community of fellow graffiti writers, fellow vector artists, and things like that. And by the end of it, it built a little tribe, and it was great. I have friends now to this day because of that experience, you know. So I knew with the comic thing, I would have to do the same thing. I would have to get inside the indie world, really see the movers and shakers of the world, and it all starts with the podcast, man. I made so many great friends in the podcast world that really helped me to not only learn about what to expect with creating your comic, and particularly with Kickstarter. But it also taught me a lot about the community. And I got to tell you, man, the community is amazing. I've not met
Mm.
anyone that is negative, even though I know they're out there. I just was lucky enough not to meet them. You know, those that are super positive, those that help each other, and those that are generally there for you. And I got to tell you, that's very rare, man. You know, in our society today, and certainly with all the divisiveness that we may have, it's very hard to find a group of people that are that, you know, kind of helping each other, you know, and for lack of a better word, care for each other. So it's cool that I found this group. And certainly I'm the same way now. I want to help anyone in the scene. I've created a couple of covers for some other IPs. I actually signed on with my digital distributor, ASAP Imagination, in the NE1 world, where they're actually going to distribute my comic book digitally, and I helped them create some covers and some artwork too. And to answer your question, one of my biggest helps was I don't know if you ever heard of Lori Calcaterra. Yeah, of
Oh
course,
yeah.
who hasn't, right? And she's been amazing, man. She right from the beginning, you know, I took because she is the queen of Kickstarter as far as I'm concerned. She's one of the queens, right? There's some other good ones too, and she really helped me with the Kickstarter to make sure that I kind of gave me some good advice in terms of what the rewards should be and keeping things super simple. And certainly, she was very supportive right from day one. But again, she is the beginning. She is like the rest of the group, which is super supportive, you know, through this whole thing.
Yeah, I agree. Some of the groups of indie comics are just kick ass and so awesome and so uplifting, and they help everybody. It's like, why can't the rest of the world be like this? You know?
Absolutely. Well, you know, I figured it out, man. You know, I figured it out after my I think I did 33 shows. After and you're my 34th, right? After all these shows that I did, I figured out why the scene is so good and why the community is so helpful. And it's pretty simplistic at the end of the day. And again, this is my opinion. If anyone else has their opinion, please help me to know because I'm trying to figure it out. And I think it's simple that in the fact that I think all of us, every human on this planet, you know, especially in this country, we all have a story to tell. And in some cases, that story could be as big as a novel. Some cases, it could be a comic book. In some cases, it could be just a lyric or a piece of poetry, you know. But we have this primal thing to tell the story. And more than likely, the story is about us, right? Um, and so I think that's what this community does. It harnesses that. It realizes that all of us have this story, not only that we want to tell, but we think that the rest of the world or people that read it will benefit from. And so that's where I think this kind of caring and this help comes from. Because certainly I know with the people that I help on the scene, it's because of that. I appreciate their passion and what they bring forth, and then I want to help them, whatever I can do to help it better connect with people.
What's some things you're gonna do different with your second Kickstarter?
Yeah, well, you know, it's the first one was building the tribe, right? So, which I
Mm.
did was, you know, building the community for the end of Zed. You know, it happened through Instagram, it happened, you know, through the Kickstarter, and then I have my own website, which gave people the ability to download the first 5 pages to see if they like the story. So now I have this little mini tribe that I'm going to take with me, and we're going to help it to grow because I really think people are going to dig the story. Zed is a lot like me, like I was telling you before. You know, he comes to this world, you know, no memory and badly damaged. And it really made me think a lot about programming, like, you know, in a sense of like I think about when I was little, like who programmed me? Well, of course, it was my parents, right? And anything that I would see visually, they would define it for me. You know, Eddie, these people are this, or this kind of institution does this, and so they're defining things as they go along. You know, then as I got older, the media did that. Started watching the news. The news tells me, okay, this group of people do this and this does that. But somewhere along time is that, you know, I think all of us have to come to our own decisions of what we're seeing in life. And we have to come to that decision ourselves, you know, and we have to make, you know, our opinions known to ourselves so we can live by. And so a lot of that happens with Zed. He comes, he sees the negative, he sees the positive, and somehow he's got to figure out, especially when he finds out more about his origin, if us as Earthlings are worth it. Are we really as bad as those who sell crack to each other, or are we as really as beautiful and powerful as when he listens to music and how it heals him? So just like him, that's the same things I was going through when I was younger. And certainly me growing up with, holes in my life, things that I needed filled. It was filled by music, not only hip hop, but any kind of music, because I just love music to death. Certainly filled with artwork as a graffiti artist, and taking that aesthetic and making it mine. And then, of course, fashion, man. As I got older, especially my teenage years, fashion was a big deal to me. Not as much anymore, but it was a big deal to me then. So yeah, I write what I know. A lot of his story is me, and I really think people can relate to that. They have had things too in their life that helps them to fill holes and things like that.
So, dead or alive, who would be your dream team to make a comic book with?
Wow, man. So dead or alive, okay, there you
Yeah.
go. Well, I would like to write with Bill Matlow. I don't know if you remember Rom. Do you remember Rom?
Yeah.
The Space Knight. Yeah, man. So he would be great to write with because he really certainly had a good sensibility in terms of what he was doing, man. And a little bit's reflected on my comic too. In terms of my team of drawing it, I wouldn't trade my artists for anything. My artists helped me to nail it, man. And the most important thing is they knew how to work with me. Because when you're an artist, you're a little bit more sensitive to what, because I actually helped draw the panels. I did the character design. It took me about 4 months to do it. So everything is personal. So I found a really good team that was willing to work with me. So I wouldn't change them for the world. They were great.
Yeah, I think that's what makes it easier, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Right, because you can imagine, right? Collaboration, man. When you're doing anything, like in your case, right? When you do your show, are you a one-man show, or do you have other people that you rely upon to kind of help you?
It's just me. I
And
do all the social media, all the videos.
everything. And now, what happens if you needed help? Like, how hard would it be for you to get help? Would you trust other people with helping you? Let's just say you're so bogged down and you need someone to help this. Like, you're used to doing it for the last 4 years. Like, it'd be very hard to hand that over, right?
Yeah.
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 So that's the true work of collaboration. And who knows? You may get stuck with that one day, man. You may have to one day because of time, or you may want to make this bigger where you need to work with other people. And then, boy, you're gonna know firsthand the true art of collaboration.
Yeah. I've been rolling that around in my head for a few months now.
Yeah,
We'll talk about it. Yeah, we'll talk about it when
yeah.
we're done. What social medias are you on?
So right now, Instagram definitely. Two Instagram accounts: the End of Z Instagram account, and then my graffiti one, which is ZNK 238. And then small presence on TikTok. I experimented with that for a while, and then my website, www.endofz.com. And then and I think one mistake I made is I really didn't give Facebook the amount of love that I should have. I think as I went on hearing other people's things, Facebook was an integral part in what they were doing, and I just didn't have enough time, man. When you're piecing the comic together, dealing with the marketing, I just didn't have enough time. So I think that's something I want to concentrate on. Facebook. Would you agree with that? Like all the people that you see, would you say Facebook is an important part to their marketing and their presence? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I barely have one, so that's not good.
It, see, I think everybody starts on Facebook, then branches out to
Ah,
either Instagram, Twitter, or whatever.
okay. And I did the opposite. I went from outside and okay, there you go.
Which should make it easier because now that I'm trying to grow this on Instagram, it's like pulling teeth,
Oh yeah.
you know?
Well, you came at a hard time, man, because remember I was telling you a couple of years ago when I was on the Instagram account, I blew that 1,000 followers, gosh, like 6, 7 months into it. There's no way that could happen now. No way that would happen now. The algorithms changed. I think
Hmm.
people sense there's more. TikTok wasn't around then, so I think the competitors of TikTok, and now you got this Blue Sky, So and then you had I think the Twitter answer, Instagram's answer to Twitter. What was that called? Trends or something like that. Trends or yeah,
Threads.
that's it. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, there's too much. So I feel you, man. I feel that you got a lot to contend with. But consistency, that's the key. Just consistently do it, and you already have an eye for graphics and stuff like that, dude. So you're there. You're there. Just got to be more consistent.
I appreciate that. Is there anything you want to say before we go?
No, just thanks again for the opportunity, man. I finished it on Wednesday, and yeah, no, thank you. I wish I could have gotten on early, but I definitely will look you up again for the next one, for
Yeah,
part two, and then yeah, so we can roll with that too. And I'll keep you up to date, man. I'll stay in contact, and yeah, certainly want to watch the show and wish you the best, man. 260, man. Wow, that's just crazy. I did one, and you did 260 shows, which is way harder than doing one comic. So I wish you the best, man.
I appreciate you taking the time to come talk with me.
Sure, absolutely.
What? You mean you haven't subscribed to Comic Chat Authority? Oh, come on, subscribe already. What are you waiting for? It's no big deal. Like, man, don't forget to tell him to hit that like button. Yeah, that too. Just subscribe.